Alright, it's ridiculously freezing out here, so I'm going to make this quick. I'm out here in the frigid winter to test out my cut shells with my 12 gauge shotgun. Now I've got a couple different bird shots, some steel number ones, and some double out buckshot that I'm going to be trying at 20 yards. I'm Jordy Buck, and this is Michigan Sharpshooters, helping you become well regulated so together we can preserve our freedoms. Now, I went out and tested quite a few different shot shells in a cut shell modification. I've found some definite things, some definite patterns to what worked and what didn't, and I found what I thought were some surprising results at what worked better and what worked worse. The first thing that I wanted to mention is I found the most consistent results, honestly, with the cheapest stuff. Just 1 ounce loads of number 7.5 birdshot seems to actually perform very, very well and that was the most accurate of them all. So I was impressed by that. But in order for it to work well, I still have to cut it right, and that's the trick I think I figured out from my testing. I fired the Federal and Remington birdshot, just the cheap target shot, 1 ounce loads of 7.5. I fired my Remington double out buckshot, 9 pellets of double out buckshot. I fired my high brass pheasant loads, Federal number 5s, 1.25 ounces, and I fired 3 of each, cut them in different spots and see what worked better. Definitely a big point of the cut shells is you can't cut down too low. If you cut too low down through the shell, they're going to be wildly inaccurate. They're just going to be too unstable. I found that the higher up I was able to cut through the hull, the more accurate they'd be, and I could actually realistically hit my mark at 20 yards with these, kind of like I would with a slug. So what's the procedure for making a cut shell? Well, I'm glad you asked. Take a nice sharp knife and cut through the shell. Well, it's a little more tricky than that. You don't want to cut the whole thing all the way across necessarily. What you want to do is I hold them up to the light and I'll look at where that shot cup ends. Most of these have just more of a shorter shot cup versus the whole shot cup wadding combination. Anyway, I'm going to look at where that shot cup is, where the shot is held. And there's usually just like one solid piece of plastic beneath that, just a real thin part. And I'm going to cut right at the bottom of that. That's what I found to be the most accurate way to make these things. Now all you do is hold it up to the light, make a little mark, rotate it, make a little mark, rotate it, make a little scratch, rotate it, make another little scratchy mark. Now when I got all those, take a real sharp knife or a good razor, and I'm just going to slowly cut and turn right through that hull, all the way through. Just like that. So I took my shotgun out and all the different shot shells that I had, I cut them in different spots and I fired them at 20 yards, a distance of 20 yards, which is 60 feet. Now at 60 feet, my shotgun, which I set to a cylinder bore, cylinder choke. At 60 feet, I'll have a pattern of between 2 and 3 feet with pretty much any shot shells ever, but anything that I have will shoot a pattern of between 2 and 3 feet at 20 yards at 60 feet. With the cut shells, I actually didn't have a pattern over about 18 inches, and quite a few of them, I actually had a full pattern under an inch. Actually, most of them had a full pattern under an inch when they hit the board, and that's because most of them, the shot never actually left the cut piece of the hull. Let me show you what I'm talking about with these cut shells. So this is a shell that I went and recovered after I fired it. So the shell is cut through down here. Now the shot cup up here, the shot cup wad, is up in the front end of the shot shell. I cut just on the bottom of that shot cup all the way around through, and then I just taped it back together. So the gunpowder's down on this side, all the shot and wad is on this end. And guess what happened? This whole piece came right out the barrel in one, squeezed right through the barrel and all the way down. However, this particular hull, you don't want to come up, but there we go, didn't actually work proper. This one tumbled just about like that. It started to tumble, it threw all the shot out and all over my board. And I picked up this cartridge about 15 feet, this hull about 15, 20 feet in front of me because it just tumbled. However, this one didn't tumble. That was this one here. This one went right through my board at a distance of 60 feet. This one retained, as far as I can tell, every piece of shot inside the front part of the hull and the shot cup as I fired. Fired, kapoom, this piece went out, hit my board, went right through the 1/2 inch plywood at 60 feet, and it made a very clean hole, just about a quarter size. The key that I found to making cut shells is where you cut them. If you cut them too low, they tumble around, they're inaccurate, and the shot cup and the hull spills all the shot and it just flies wild. You got to cut them up as high as you can without getting into the shot or cutting through the shot cup. So I just held it up to the light bulb, made a mark with an ink pen as I rotated it, and carefully cut through the hull right at that mark. These things do have some merit to them. Now the buckshot actually did really good. I'm kind of interested to try that again in a further distance because my 9 pellets of double-aught buckshot all hit in a spot that big on the target. The wad and the shot shell stayed intact at 20 yards and actually went right through my 1/2 inch piece of plywood board. I was able to find both the wad and the shot shell on the other side of my board in the snow. That green really stands out. But I couldn't believe it. I mean, this whole thing went right through and stayed intact, full of shot. So my double-aught buckshot at 20 yards hit in a pattern the diameter of that shot shell. That would take out anything just like I'm at 10 feet away. That impressed me. And I got the same results with the bird shot as long as I could cut it up high enough. With the steel shot, I got only crappy results, so I don't think I would ever really do that one again. They all hit somewhat sideways with the steel shot. Just because they were less stable in the air, I guess. So these two are ones I wanted to show you guys. This was my Federal Top Gun? Yeah, Federal Top Gun bird shot, 7.5s, and this was my double-aught buckshot. Both of these, all the pellets stayed completely in the hulls and wads when they hit my board. So that was definitely a very, very lethal shot at 20 yards. So I effectively increased my lethal distance from 20 feet to 60 feet, 20 yards, which is a 3 times increase in distance of lethality with my shotgun. That tells me that there's some serious merit to these cut shells if you're willing to play around with them and get them right. However, with the buckshot. I don't think I could ever recommend that unless you're only having a single shot because they jammed. They're a higher pressure round, and when I did the cut shell, it does increase the pressure in the gun. Well, all that increased pressure, you can see this is the back end of the buckshot. It blew off the high brass. This was high brass. It blew off the brass end cap, and that brass expanded so much from the extra pressure that I almost couldn't get it out of my shotgun. With my pump shotgun, I had to sit there and beat it on the ground probably 25, 30 times quite hard to get that shell to eject. I can't recommend that. I had the same thing with my duck hunting loads. Those are 1,500 feet per second, and it's an ounce of steel. So it's a really hot load. It's a higher pressure round already. The extra pressure of that swelled up the brass ring, and I couldn't rack them out. I had to beat the shotgun up and down like this before it would rack out. Now the extra pressure is because I'm putting all the shot and the shot cup wadding plus the shot shell down the barrel. This shot shell takes up a lot of space. It's not really designed to go down the barrel. It can apparently, but in a high pressure round, that creates enough pressure to jam up your shotgun. It didn't seem to be enough to create a dangerous situation, but it definitely jammed up my shotgun just by swelling up that brass ring, which means I couldn't eject it, which means in a defensive situation, that's dangerous. So use at your own risk. This is informational knowledge only. If you want to play around with it, go ahead. Be careful. Take super extra cautions. Don't be stupid. And do this at your own risk. Well, thanks for watching Michigan Sharpshooters. I thought this was pretty fun and interesting. If you did too, I'd appreciate it if you click that like button, because that'll help me know what type of videos and content to get out to make myself more helpful to you. Well, thanks, and bye now.